My dear young brothers and sisters, let us take a moment of silence and just breathe. You are here. You are loved. You matter more than you know. There is a light inside you that the world desperately needs. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. And perhaps in this noisy world, you haven't heard it clearly yet. But your life is a gift meant to shine. I want to speak to your heart, not to impress, but to embrace, not to instruct, but to walk with you. Pause. So many voices tell you what you should be. But the gospel whispers who you are already beloved, chosen, called by name. Let us begin this journey together with open hands, open eyes, and open hearts. My dear young friends, do not be afraid to be gentle in a world that often confuses strength with hardness. Gentleness is not weakness. Gentleness is the strength of those who have allowed their hearts to remain open. It is the courage of those who choose love instead of fear, tenderness instead of pride, compassion instead of power. The world may not applaud it. It may not trend or go viral, but in the eyes of God, gentleness is a quiet revolution of the soul. We live in a time where people speak quickly and listen slowly, where anger is mistaken for conviction, and indifference is worn like a shield. But the gospel shows us another way. Jesus did not shout to be heard. He did not force his will upon the crowds. He bent down to wash feet. He touched the untouchable. He listened to the forgotten. In him, gentleness had a face, and it looked like mercy. I think of a young woman I met who volunteers in a shelter for homeless mothers. Each evening, after her classes, she sits with women who have nothing, not even a bed to call their own. She doesn't offer them advice or solutions. She offers presence, a smile, a warm cup of tea, a silent prayer. She once told me, they don't remember what I say, but they always remember how I made them feel like they still mattered. That is gentleness. That is gospel love. I think of a boy in a rough neighborhood who defends a classmate being mocked for his accent. He says simply, leave him alone. He's my friend. No fanfare, no grand speeches, just courage wrapped in kindness. And I think of Jesus, silent before those who accused him, reaching out even as he was rejected. Learn from me. He says, for I am gentle and humble of heart. This is not a metaphor. It is the truth of who he is. And it is the truth of what we are called to be. To be gentle in a harsh world is a form of resistance, a holy rebellion. When you choose to love someone who cannot repay you, when you speak kindly to someone who is rude, when you forgive instead of retaliate, You are proclaiming that the kingdom of God is near. You are planting seeds of peace in soil that has long been dry and cracked by hatred. The poor, the forgotten, the lonely. They do not need our opinions. They need our gentleness. The child in the refugee camp, the elder left behind in a nursing home, the neighbor battling depression. They do not need our judgment. They need our presence, our tenderness, our quiet solidarity. So I invite you, gently but clearly, to be this kind of person, not tomorrow, not when the world changes, but now. Start with small acts, a kind word, a soft answer, a listening ear, a quiet prayer. Let your gentleness be your witness. Let it speak louder than any argument. Let it be your strength, your mission, your gift to a world that has forgotten how to be soft. And never forget, God's gentleness has saved us. May we now bring that same gentleness to others. My dear young friends, there is a road many walk on, wide and paved, where people move quickly, eyes fixed forward, feet hurried, hearts guarded. And then there are those who walk a slower path, the path of compassion. Not above others, not apart, but among. This is the path of Jesus, the path that does not walk past the poor, but with them. Too often, we are taught to succeed by stepping over what is broken, to keep going even when we see pain. But if we only walk where it is safe, if we only love those who are easy to love, then we have not yet touched the heart of the gospel. Jesus did not pass by. He stopped at the side of the road with the blind, in the dust with the leper, at the well with the outcast. He stopped not to fix people, but to love them, to restore their dignity, to remind them and us that no one is invisible to God. I remember a young man who told me he had grown up in a wealthy neighborhood, but never knew of the man who slept on the bench near his school. I saw him every day, he said, but I never looked at him. Then one day, after hearing a homily about the Good Samaritan, he sat beside him. He asked his name. He listened. He brought him a sandwich, not to feed his hunger only, but to say, "You are seen." This is what it means to walk with the poor. And it is not only about material poverty. There is the poverty of loneliness, of being unloved, of being treated as a problem instead of a person. There are those in your classrooms, in your families, even in your churches who carry invisible wounds. Walk with them, not with pity, but with solidarity, with eyes that say, "You are not forgotten. We are all beggars before God, all of us." And it is only when we recognize our shared poverty that we can truly build communion. The gospel does. not ask us to save the poor. It asks us to be near them, to be friends, to allow their stories to enter ours, to let their pain gain our compassion, to let their hope renew our faith. If your dreams do not have room for the poor, your dreams are not yet wide enough for the kingdom of God. If your steps never lead you to the margins, you may be walking in the wrong direction. So I invite you, not with pressure, but with peace, to slow down, to notice, to listen, to walk with the ones the world forgets. Their names are written in heaven. Their hands carry a sacred weight. Their tears are prayers that rise straight to the heart of God. And when you walk with them, when you share in their suffering, you will not lose yourself. You will find yourself. You will see Christ. Because He is always there in the poor, in the hungry, in the stranger, in the broken, and He is waiting for you. My beloved young friends, in a world that builds so many walls, walls between nations, walls between neighbors, even walls within our own hearts, the gospel calls us to be builders of something far more sacred bridges, quiet bridges, humble bridges, bridges that do not boast, but carry the weight of love across the chasms of division. There is no peace where there is dialogue. There is no communion where is no encounter. If we are to follow the way of Jesus, we must cross the street. We must meet the other. We must look into the eyes of those we do not and understand, to listen, not to reply, but to receive. It is easy to speak of love, but love costs something. Love requires us to go beyond what is comfortable. I recall a young woman who told me of her fear when a refugee family moved into her building. She had heard so many things that made her anxious, suspicious. But one evening, the mother of that family who knocked on her door to borrow some salt, just that, salt, and something in her heart softened. They spoke, they laughed, they shared stories, and now they are like family, one small bridge, one quiet yes. How many opportunities we miss because we assume we already know the other, because we fear what is different, because we protect our comfort instead of opening our hands. But Christ our Lord broke every wall between sinner and saint, rich and poor, Jew and Gentile. He reached out. He invited. He healed the broken bond between heaven and earth by becoming one of us, fully, tenderly. And this is our call too. Do not be afraid to love those who not think like you, speak like you, or believe like you. Do not be afraid to walk beside someone who is rejected by others. Love does not ask us to agree on everything, but it does ask us to never stop seeing the face of God in every human being. You see, mercy builds bridges. Patience builds bridges. A kind word spoken in a moment of tension builds a bridge. A meal shared across difference, a smile offered in silence. These things matter. These things plant seeds of peace in soil long hardened by fear. We cannot change the whole world at once, but we can choose each day to be people who bring others together, not push them apart. We can choose to ask questions instead of pass judgment. We can choose to hold out our hand instead of point a finger. And so I invite you gently but with great hope to be bridge builders in your homes, in your friendships, in your conversations. Start small. Start now. The world is waiting for your courage. The world is longing for your tenderness. And Christ walks with you across every bridge you dare to build. My dear young friends, in the business of our lives, it is easy to forget the simple yet profound gift of silence. We live in a world full of noise, phones ringing, voices shouting, screens flashing. There is always something calling for our attention, pulling us in 1,000 directions. And yet, in the midst of all this, there is a deeper call, a call to silence, to stillness, to quiet. Silence is not simply the absence of sound. It is a place where we can meet ourselves. It is a space where we can encounter God. In silence, we do not hear only the sounds of the world around us, but we begin to hear the quiet whisper of God's voice in our hearts. Jesus himself often withdrew to a quiet place to pray. He went in the desert, to the mountains, to lonely places, not to escape from the world, but to listen to the Father. He took time to be still. He took time to be alone with God, to reconnect with the source of all life, all love. And if Jesus needed silence to strengthen his soul, how much more do we need it? I think of the many young people I've met who are constantly moving, busy with school, work, friendships, and distractions. They tell me they feel lost, anxious, or disconnected. It is no wonder. When we fill every moment with noise, we lose sight of what is truly important. We forget who we are and whose we are. We forget that we are loved children of God, called to live with purpose and love. But in silence, we are reminded of our true identity. In silence, we reconnect with the deep well of peace that only God can offer. We remember that we are not we do, but who we are in His eyes. Silence allows us to rest in His presence, to be replenished, and to find the courage to face the challenges ahead. I want to tell you a story of a man I know, a simple man who works every day as a gardener. He wakes early in the morning, and before he begins his work, he takes a few minutes to sit in silence. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't ask for anything. He just sits. He feels the sun on his face, listens to the birds, and in that quiet moment, he knows that God is with him. This man, in his stillness, has learned to trust. He has learned to be present. And in his silence, he finds the strength to love the people around him, to serve without expectation, and to bring joy into the simplest of tasks. My dear friends, silence does not mean escaping from the world. It means entering more deeply into it, into the very heart of God's love. It is in silence that we hear the cries of the poor, the lonely, the broken. It is in silence that we understand the suffering of others and find the strength to act. Silence is not a retreat. It is a place of renewal, a place where we can listen to the voice of God calling us to love. I invite you gently but firmly to find time each day for silence. It does not need to be long. A few minutes of quiet, a moment of stillness, it can open the door to a deeper life. Take time to listen. Take time to pray. Take time to simply be still. And in that stillness, let God speak to you. In the quiet, you will find peace. In the quiet, you will find yourself. And in the quiet, you will find God waiting with open arms. My dear young friends, there are moments in life when we feel small, when the weight of the world seems too heavy for our hearts. We face challenges that seem insurmountable, problems that feel unsolvable, and doubts that echo in our minds. In these moments, it can be easy to lose hope, to believe that our small actions cannot make a difference, that we are powerless. But I tell you today, there is power in hope. There is strength in faith. You are not called to carry the world on your shoulders, but you are called to carry the light of Christ in your hearts. And this light, no matter how small it may seem, is more powerful than any darkness. It shines brightest in the moments when we feel weakest. It is in our vulnerability that God's strength is made perfect. You do not have to change everything at once. You do not have to be perfect. But you are called to be faithful, to be loving, to be brave in the face of fear. I think of a young woman I met who, despite facing personal struggles and hardships, continues to serve at a local food bank. She told me that at times she feels like she has nothing left to give. But she knows that every small act of kindness, every meal shared, brings a little light into the darkness of someone else's life. And she said to me, even if I only help one person today, it makes it all worth it. This is the power of hope. It is the power of small acts of love that ripple into the world. We are not asked to change the entire world overnight, but to be faithful in the small, everyday moments. It is in those moments that God's kingdom is built. It is in our kindness, our compassion, our willingness to listen and care that we become instruments of God's grace. I also think of a young man who, in his community, decided to start a prayer group for those who struggle with addiction. He told me that at first he felt inadequate, unsure of what to say, and afraid that his words wouldn't be enough. But he took a step of faith. He offered a safe space for people to gather, to pray, and to share their burdens. Over time, lives were transformed, not because of anything extraordinary he did, but because he dared to hope. He dared to believe that God could work through him, no matter how imperfect he felt. My dear friends, the call to hope is not a call to ignore the realities of suffering, but to face them with courage and love. It is not a call to pretend that everything is easy, but to trust that even in our struggles, God is with us. We are not alone. We do not have to walk this journey by ourselves. Jesus walks with us. He walks beside us in our suffering and in our joy. So I invite you today to embrace hope with all your heart. Be brave in the face of fear. Take small steps, knowing that they will lead to great things. You do not have to have all the answers, but you are called to love, to serve, and to trust in God's providence. When you feel weak, remember that God's strength is made perfect in your weakness. When you feel lost, remember that Christ is the way. And when you feel that your actions are too small to matter, remember that even the smallest seed can grow into a mighty tree. Keep walking, keep loving, and let your light shine. Because, dear friends, the world is waiting for the hope that only you can bring. My dear young friends, as we come to the end of this moment, I want to remind you of something profoundly important. You are never alone. In every step you take, in every challenge you face, in every moment of joy and sorrow, God is with you. And when you walk with Him, no matter how small your steps may seem, you are walking with something beautiful. A life of love, of hope, of transformation. Your actions, no matter how humble, have the power to change the world. You are part of God's great plan, and your life has a purpose. So, I encourage you today to live with courage, to live with compassion, and to never stop walking toward the light of Christ. Know that in your moments of doubt, in your moments of struggle, God sees you. He loves you. and He will always be there, guiding you with His grace. And as you go from here, may you carry that hope with you. May be the ones who build bridges, who speak words of kindness, who live the gospel with joy and humility. Let your light shine brightly, and remember, even the smallest act of love can change the world. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being open to God's call. Thank you for your willingness to take these steps in faith. I wish you all the best in your journey ahead. May God bless each one of you, and may His peace be with you always. Good luck, and thank you.